Welcome to the new video, where in this video we are trying to make a BMI calculator app. Basically, this app is all about calculating the body mass index. So it's a simple application where user can select their genders and give a respective height and the weight and also the age. When they click on the calculate your BMI buttons, which takes to the next screen, that is the result screen, where the results will be shown and also a little message to that BMI will be shown. So there is a simple results page where I do recalculate, which pops up to the main screen. So it deals with the navigation, theming, and how do we create these custom components, uh, and also how do we manage this code, refactoring of codes, and many concepts will be covered in this app while we building this. So without getting late or further ado, let's get into the video. Okay, let's first analyze how the app is. So what we have to make here, like what are the UI we have to first design. So first we start with the designing, then we implement all the logics. So I have few things which might help you guys to go step by step. So whenever you try to create your own app, do follow the steps. And since it's a simple app, so they have simple steps. First, let's divide this whole layout. Whenever you see the screen, try to divide the layout. So the moment when you divide the layout, you'll get to understand how how the each and element are placed, what is the widget that we have to use, and which plays very important role in stacking up the elements. Second, once it's done, make sure you have designing your UI system. That's nothing but take what is the important colors, what is the primary, secondary, what is the color of foreground colors, and CTA colors, and what is the text style. If you could see here, the text style of this and all this are little similar, the text style. So you can just make it or group it somewhere. And next is identify the reusable block of UI. So what do you mean by this reusable block of UI? Is nothing but if you could see here, the card, what the card you are seeing, right, which has a similar background only to the active colors. So which has a quite similar background, which means that only the content inside them are different. So you don't have to build that card again and again. You just have to build it once and reuse it. That's the whole concept of components. So we are trying to build this kind of components also. And note on the widgets. What do I mean by the widgets is everything is widget, but if you are new to the, if you are trying to use the new widgets, like in this video, the new widget will be this slider. So when it's like a new widget, try to make a note. Okay, this is the new widget. So you'll give little more time on spending how this widgets works. So let's start with this dividing the layout. Okay, if you see the screen properly, where I have just divided the blocks, mainly we have this app bar and we have this bottom, that is a button, and in between we have a little big box where the whole this body has three major elements. If you could see, if I try to highlight this, we have this element, and we also have another element which is this and this. So we have a three elements, three child under the main group. So this is how you start grouping the elements. So if you take this only card, which has again two elements which are stacked in the column wise, so this help you people to know which kind of widget, layouting widget you have to use. Like if you could see, all these three elements are lying one under the another, which is nothing but these are in the direction of column, which is stacking column. If you see here, if the two cards are lying to next to each other, which is nothing but the cards are next to each other. So I hope dividing the layouts is clear to you people. If not, watch the previous video where I have explained it. So similar way, here also I have tried to divide it. if you could see here also, we have three things. One is a text that you are seeing here, and another is a main card where it renders three things again, which is tagged as a column. This also a column. If you could observe, every element is stacking one below the other, so which is in the column wise. So this is how you divide the entire system, or how do we design the leverting thing. This is for the beginners. If you're starting with the new, like if you're not familiar with React, it is good if you understand how do we create this UI using this. So first few time you might struggle, but later you'll get to understand even without doing this. Okay, we are done with dividing the layout. Then design system. So here I have just kept all the colors that I want. So basically I'm using this black theme. You might be familiar in your cell phones, right? Few might have used the system default color, that is like a light theme or maybe a black theme. And I have used this scaffold background. I've just kept the color. What are the color palettes of this? The UI that I have to design. And I've just make the note of the widgets that I have to use. So and also the widget that I have to use, maybe a button or navigate or the slider. And these are the common styles that I have seen here. The cards are all like quite similar, so I can just design it once and reuse it. And labels also, and number styles. So basically these are it's just a big picture I have told you. So once if you understand this, it's clear, and it gives you little clarity. So without wasting our time, let's actually get started with the video. Okay, we are in the Android Studio right now. So what we are doing right is, for now I've just rendered a material app where it has a scaffold and an app bar, which is rendering a text called BMI Calculator. Have just enclosed or wrapped that with the center widget. So once it's done, once you have did all these things, so let's actually get started with building our UI. The first thing that you have noticed today while I was explaining that is the whole our app is in the black color, right? Which means that which has a little dark background. It's like a dark mode, right? So the first topic that we are covering is theme. So basically these themes are like a light theme or could be a black theme. And how do we add this theme? Here is, it's quite simple. So either I can just go inside this material app where we have a lot of property, where theme is also one property. So here if I hover on the theme, where I get a few of the property like theme data.dark, theme data.light, and etc, etc. So basically I can just use theme data.dark or light. By default it will be light, but if you want a dark, you can just switch the dark. And let's start it. So we'll get or switch that into the dark theme. So you could see the moment it has switched, the color of the text and the background has been changed, and the contrast is also been matching. If it is in the light theme, the text will become a black. If it is in dark, it become light. So it is how it is built. And also if you don't want this dark, or if you want to give your own theme data, you can just give inside the theme data, where you have to mention every color that you have to give. Like you have to give background color of scaffolder, text, everything you can just start giving, or else you can just get started with the dark mode. Just start with the dark one. Okay, if you could see here in the dark mode, the background color is black, but the color that I wanted is kind of a blue. So what I can do is, so I want a dark theme, to be honest, but I just want to change few things in the dark theme, like a background color, or a few things like CTA colors, or any other particular thing that I want to change, and keep everything as same, like in the dark one. So what I'll do, I'll just copy this using a copy with, which will copy all the property, If you could see here, these are all the properties that we are getting from a theme. These are all the themes that you can set. So what I want is, I want to change the scaffold background color. So I want a little bluish color, okay. So I'll just go there and grab the color. Okay, if you are not familiar with this, so it is nothing but a system of hexadecimal way of coloring the value. So here if you could see, this is an RGB value and this is an A, that is a transparency, that is nothing but an alpha value. So basically they are following the decimal kind of system. Okay, and 0 OX is nothing but a decimal number, where FF is nothing but a transparency, or called, it's also called as ARGB. Okay, so FF is nothing but an alpha, that is a transparency. If it is 00, then it is a transparent. If it is FF, then it is called as a opaque, that is a full color. And the rest of is nothing but this is an R value, that is a red color value. It's a G, that is green, and the last two is nothing but a blue. It's a RGB color of XR value. So whenever you are copying your XR value, make sure you are first using this alpha colors, then you are pasting the rest of your XR value to it. So if you could see here, I got this app bar where the color of the app bar is little changed. I want the same color of this. So I'll come to the app bar. I'll change the background color to the color I wanted. So you have to hot restart because we don't have a stateless widget here. So we have to hot restart. So which is in the center. Next, what we have to do, so if you could observe here, what is the next step we have to divide, what is the next step we have to do, that we have already divided, that we are seeing here. We have to create a column where it has a 3 expanded widget. Why we are using expanded widget is because it have to take up the length according to the screen. Okay, if I give a particular length or a height or a width, which will break in few screens. So I'll show you how. So let's start building it. So after the app bar, I'll come under the scaffold where I'll give it as a body, and I'll write a home screen, which is a new screen. So instead of writing everything here, let's create a new screen, Dart file called home screen. And let's import material, package.material. And also I'll just use a stateful widget and name this as a home screen. Okay, after that I'll just come back to the main Dart, and I'll make sure that I have imported this, so it will clear an error. So the next step I have to do is, I'll just restart it again, which is now we are seeing, which is a placeholder. Instead of placeholder, let's place a scaffolder, which will actually solve the error. It's not an error, it's just saying it's empty. Now it is filled with a scaffolder. So I want 3 children that are placed in the column wise. So what I will do, under the scaffolder, under the body, I'll use a column which has a property called children, which takes more than one element. So I want 3 elements, right? If you could observe that all 3 elements, if you could see all these 3 elements, where this card is quite similar. So let's start making cards first, then we'll look after for the content. Okay, so what I'll do, I'll place a 3 children. It will be the first one, and the second, and the third. I'll use the expanded in all 3. The child I wanted to be, each expanded has a two again cards, right, which are in the row wise again. I'll expand the row where each row will have a card, and I'll use the container for the card, making a card basically. Here I'm preparing a single card. Okay, that card I wanted a height of 250, 250 and width of 200, and let's give a color. Let's put it in the decoration, and box decoration will be a color, and the color I wanted is a little. I'll just go and grab the color. See here, you can see the card, right? I'll just add a little border radius to that. There should be a property called border radius, and the border radius dot circular, where I have to making a border rounded with the 10. If I just reload it, we just missed something. Okay, here is the one. Okay, I'll get a little rounded corners here. So let's give a little gap between, the margin. So what I can do, since we have a container, I'll just add a margin which has a edge insides dot symmetric, or I can use only where I wanted the left side, this side to be like 20, and towards the right I just want to keep that as a 5. Okay, this is the first child of the row. If I just copy the same thing, here I'll get another. But if you could see here, I'm getting this yellow color stripe, which is saying that the card is been, what do you call, it has been overflowing, and it is overflowing by 2.0 pixels, which means that in few of these screens or cell phone it might look better, but in other it doesn't, because of the we are giving or fixing the height and the width. So instead of fixing that, let's remove the height and width. Okay, let's remove it. So instead of that, let's wrap the whole container with the expanded widget. Which will expand both in the height and the width. Okay, if you could see, it is expanding in both height and width. So since there is no children under this card, it has been taking up the full height, so don't have to worry. Once if I copy the same thing and I'll paste it down here and also down here, and I'll make sure this has been separated by the sized box of height 10. Which will have a little gap. So instead of 10, let's keep it as little 15 or something. Okay, looks better. Okay, I have kept 20, and in the middle we don't want a 2 columns, we don't want a row actually. We can just remove the row. You can just click on here and you'll get a bulb like structure. You can just remove it, or else you can do a control space, control enter, alt enter, sorry. Then if you didn't see any remove thing, you can just directly remove. Okay, now we are getting removed. Okay, fine. So I have just removed everything. If you could see, we are not properly given the margin overall. That's where it is through, it is going to the end of the corner. So let's make sure we are giving towards right also. Just copy this and try to find this and replace it with the replace it with the, let's add even, instead of only I can just use a symmetric. I can write the symmetric instead of only, and I can just replace everything. And if I hit save, it should be replaced. Let's see if not. Okay, here is the mistake. So do copy it. We just added one extra margin. So we just have to remove that extra margin. Okay, if you replace it all, it will be right, proper. So here we are. But I hope we have given a lot of space. So how can we fix this as, either we can reduce the horizontal to the vertical like a 10, or we can do this thing. We can just remove the unnecessary gapping that I have given between them, the sized box. Okay, what I just did is, instead of giving symmetric, I just give a left and right, which is of 12 both on the sides. So this is how it looks. So all this are, if you observe, the same container is been repeating multiple times. Same container. So what we can do is, we can make this as a reusable block of code where we can reuse this and we can just change the content inside it. Agree? I mean, the background color of all these cards and the style how it is designed, it's quite similar. I mean, it is same, but the content is different. So what we'll do is, we'll go here and we'll just remove the container, click on this container, and if you go refact, we'll get an extract Flutter widget. So basically we are creating a reusable block of widget. So I'll write reusable card, or I can just write a card or the BMI card. So once it's done, just click on the refactor, which will be created a widget here, and this widget is nothing but a stateless widget. And if you come up here, there's a BMI card, so I can just remove everything that is a container. I can just search for it, and I can replace it with the, what I have to replace it with, I have to replace it with BMI card, which is like this. So I can click on the replace all, which will replace everything. So basically the number of lines of code that we are using for just rendering the same UI will be reduced. So this is how we tend to reuse the components. So whatever the things are common, we are just keeping outside. So okay, hope this is clear. So the next thing we have to think about is the content. The content inside this, each and every card is little different. So where will the content goes? So the moment when I close all this, the container will have a property called a child, which will take up everything. If I just write a text, and if I write hi, which will be placed everywhere. And also one thing about the container is, it takes up the height and the width of the content. So how much the height and width of the content will be there, that much it will be considering. So that's why it is taking up the only, and also this remove this unnecessary widget. So here we are. If I just collapse everything, you can see it is taking up a length it wanted. So what we'll do, okay, later when we started added content, it will take up the full space, you don't have to worry. So here, instead of having a one content, I have to pass it like a dynamically. So I want to make it dynamically, like whenever I can change the content, but I want the same UI to be presented. Okay, so how can we do? If you could see here, this widget, that reusable BMI card that we have taken, right, which is just an UI, where this is an stateless and it's a class. It's rendering a stateless widget but it is a class. And when it comes to class, we discussed in the Dart also in also previous classes, which will can render a method or a variable. Right now we have a constructor called a BMI card only, where it has a super dot key. So this key property is like mainly used for the widget in the tree where it is more movable. If the widgets are more moving in the tree of the widgets, like animations or text animations, in that kind we tend to use this key property. So right now we don't want, let's remove it. So first let's create a variable called card child, which is nothing but here it goes and what the child needs and widget. Okay, so I'll just write a property data type to that is called as widget. And the reason that I have given the keyword final is because it's in a stateless widget. Usually the stateless widget won't be rebuilding like a stateful widget. Once it is created, it won't it won't change anything. It doesn't, if in case it want to change something, it have to be destroyed completely, then it have to be built again. So similarly, in the same way, when it comes to the building any variable that is inside stateless widget, we have to make sure that keyword is just only like a constant or a final keyword where it can't be changed later. So it's a good practice to use a final keyword. And we have to use a constructor whenever we call this BMI class, right? We want to pass a constructor where this constructor is a required one, so make sure it is required, and you tell we want a card child just goes right here, which is returning a widget. Clear? So you can see the error here, which is telling that BMI card something called as card child. So since we have passed the named parameters, we have to tell we want a card child, and what type of card child? It's a widget. You can place anything. So what I'll do, if you see the first one, I wanted two things. One is which is in the column. One is an icon, which is an icon of male symbol. Another one was a text named as male. So these are two things I wanted. And let's also fill up in the other spaces. Here, since there is no first, since it is nothing there here, so let's just comment for now. We'll come back to it later, you don't have to worry. Let's comment this also. Okay. And here also in the same way, we wanted an other one where it is the same column, but it's an female version. It's a gender actually. It's a card child which renders a column which have to be a female, and icon should be a female too. So it's a little error. Okay, let's remove this. I wish I have uncommented everything. Okay, here it is showing an error because we have not ended the statement. So here it takes up a full length because there's no other child element, so you don't have to worry. So if I just remove this or unplug this, and third as an expanded also, I'll just uncomment this where we wanted to render a BMI So we have not yet replaced for the container here, that's why it is not showing anything here. So if you could observe, both first and second has a two cards, so I'll just replace the same thing for the third one. So this is how it looks. So now let's add few styling to it. Before that, observe there's two cards. If you see the two cards, it has an icon and text, here also icon and text. So we can make this also a reusable block of code. Like how I can make is, I can just click on the column and I can go to the refactor and I can just extract this Flutter widget, and I can write card content. If I click on that, that will be replaced with the card content. So I don't have to write anything like a column or something. I can just write a card content which will be shown like this. But the card content has a difference. What is the difference? The icon and the text are little different. So for now, let's try to style this. Okay, the icon should be little big, of size like 80. Make it 100. Okay, it's looking better. So, and the same way for the text, if you could see, I just have to make a font size as 24. Text weight it is, I want a text size 24. Not bad. And also I want a little weight of 500, and I have to change the color. Color is like little gray. So gray. So the color is looking better. So the column, let's make a children's as a center. Here main axis alignment, it is towards the x-axis. So just making it to the center. And also so the next thing is we have to change the content. Since the both content are looking same, we just have to change. So it is the same thing what we did in the last. First we'll create a keyword. What we want, we are expecting, we are trying to create a class. I mean, by default when the class is called, the default constructor is expecting something, so we are trying to pass it. So we want an icon. An icon is expecting something called an icon data. If I hover on this, if I hover on the icons which have to tell what it requires, it basically needs an icon data. So I'll just write an icon data, which let's give a name called icon. And also I want one more variable, that is a string, which is nothing but a text. Let's write it as title. So I'll try to use a constructor. When this is called, I want a two required of field. One is an icon, and other one is this dot title. So, and also make sure it is replaced here. Instead of icons.mail, I'll just use icon, and instead of mail, I'll use title. Okay, so you can see the error here because it's expecting few properties like icon, which is a male, and a title, which is a string. I'll just write a male. And here also just want an icon which have to be a female, and we want a title called a female. So now it will be replaced. If I just hit hot reload, and there's a little error down here. Okay, because just we copied and pasted here also, it's throwing an error. So let's see where is the error coming from. Okay, again the error is from here. We have not ended the semicolon. So I'll just reload it again. So you can see there's a change in the icons. Clear? Okay. The next thing that we observe is, the next card that we have to do is this middle card. So what we do, we have used this expanded. If you remove this also, it's fine, because we have this column. We can use something called as cross alignment dot stress, which will work again. So here let's remove this container. Inside of this container, we'll use this BMI card that we made, which will have a color automatically. So inside this card, we wanted a column which is a children again, and this children will have a first text called weight. Okay, the moment when I do this, since a column, I mean the BMI card is a container, it is just taking up the content of this. If you want to stretch this, what we can do is we have this column which is the parent element of this. I can go here and tell cross alignment as stretch. So moment I do, it will become stretched. Okay, and second thing, this weight and this weight, both the font styling is same. So what we can do is we can just take up that style from the expanded where I have used here. What is the style that I have used? It is in the card content. So I have used a style here, right? Text style. So I'll just cut this. So I'll create a constant file here. Why I'm creating constant file is because, see, it's very important to keep your app in the one single branded colors. So consistency of colors matters very much. Consistency in the text, and if you are using all blue colors of text, blue shades of text, and if you suddenly use the different color, it doesn't look good. So we're just keeping a constant because, and also it's easy for us to debug. You might encounter sometime you have to change the entire theme of the colors. If that was the case, you have to go to each and every line and check where is the colors. So to avoid this, we are keeping in the one file, which is helping us to change the entire uh, app in a click. So let's create a constant called label style, and we are just pasting the text style. Okay, and it's throwing error because we have not imported the material, packaged material, which is most required. So it will solve an error. I'll go back to the home screen where I have it's an error because there's no styling. And the second thing about the constant is to identify this as a constant, we always tend to name it with the constant k. So usually in the physics and all, you might be familiar with this, right? Whenever you want to write a constant k, if you're not also a physics fan, fine. Usually they write, it's a good practice of writing this any constant in a way of this, starting with the letter k. And also if you just go here and type for k, there will be a many number of constant that is created by the Flutter only. So we wanted a k label style which we created, so we'll just import the file, and if I hit save, it will be automatically implemented. I'll just go to the weight that I have written the second card. I'll enclose the first card. In the second card you are seeing here, I've given weight, right? So how I can reuse it, when I write style, I can just write a k label style. When I hit save, it automatically been implemented. And since it's a column, just make sure it is in the center. Okay, it's not cross alignment, it's main alignment, main axis alignment. The moment we did, it's done. The next thing we want is a text called text of the weight. So I'll show you how it looks. So this is how we already done with this. Now we want an height, it's not an weight, sorry. We want an height, and we want a two text. The one with a bold, which has a similar styling here. So I can just create the style here and make it constant, and I can reuse here, and a slider. So let's get started doing it. So instead of weight, let's replace it with the height. And the next thing that we wanted is a row, which will have a two text. One is an main element, main number. So whenever you are writing some constants or number, try to keep that here like a constant. It's an int, it's an height. Let's keep a height as 153. Okay, and let's try to render it here. Height. So but the text always receive and string, but we are returning it in the int, right? So how do we convert into string is by using a method called toString, and we can add a style. How we wanted our style is, it should be little bold. So I'll just write a font size to be like nearly 70, which is a good amount. So I'll keep it as 70 only. If I want, I can change it. Font weight as a bold. Okay. So what I'll do, I'll just cut this entire style thing. not fully, but this much. I'll cut this. Okay, I'll just go to the constant file and I'll create one more constant called k number style. I'll just paste this and come back here and I'll just use that constant. Okay, then we want one more text that is like a small text which should render a text called centimeter. So I'll just write a text centimeter, which is not a style of k, which is a style of a label. So I'll use the label, and we want it both to be set in the center. So I'll go to the row. I'll make sure the main axis alignment to the row to be centered, and we want that to be seated in the baseline, right? So what I can use, I can just use a cross alignment as baseline. The moment when I hit save, there's an error called the package Flutter. It's basically failed because we have not included a text baseline. So it is telling text baseline is null. So if I write text baseline, so it is expect us to give what kind of text baseline we wanted. So I wanted a text baseline which is an alphabetic. So basically we are using a string, right, which is alphabetic kind. So both are text, so which will be laid in the same line. The next we wanted is an slider. Slider is a new widget. Okay, if you don't know where you can find the widgets or how do we find the widget, just go and check the Flutter docs. So this is the Flutter docs. If you go inside this widget catalog, we'll see a material design where you'll get a lot of widgets. If you just scroll it down, where we'll get a widget that has already been present. So I wanted a slider where I can find it here. So yeah, it is a slider. So if I click on this, we'll get a lot of information how to use, and we also have the official Flutter videos on those you can watch. And also below here there's a property, mention what kind of property and also how to use it. You can just go through the docs if you get confused. So let's get into the video and see how to make. Okay, here after this row we wanted a slider where I can just write slider, which takes two things. One is a value, one is an on change. So what is this value? Value is nothing but a slider's initial value. So let's the initial value be 153, that is nothing but an height, which already been given here. That 153, let it be a value, and here the value is expecting a double, but mine is an int, so I can just convert that to double. Okay, and we want on change property. What is this on change property? Is usually slider, when it slides through the when it is sliding, there should be a value, right? When it changes the value, some kind of action to be done. It's taking an function. It's a callback function. You can see here it is taking a callback function and it is setting that to the new value. So what we'll do, we'll write a callback function. It's an anonymous function where this function is taking an input which is a double, and let us name that as a new value. And what we are doing, when the moment it gets a new value, from 150 through 153 it moves to the 160, we want to change our height to 160. So we'll set our height to the new value. Done. And also very important thing is you are setting something. So how do we notify that notify the stateless to build again? By using a set state method. And here if you could see, the value of type double cannot be assigned to variable type int. So basically this height is an int 1 where new value is double. So first what we'll do, we'll first convert it to the int. After that this height usually is a double value, and double values are like, I'll try to print it and show you how it will be. We'll write height which will be more than 1 decimal points. Okay, So I'll just print it and make sure you end it with a semicolon. And also there's a few errors saying that there's no min and max. So there's also one more property under this slider. There is a minimum. What is the minimum number you're giving? Let's say you're giving a 10. What is the maximum number you're giving? Let's say it is 200. Okay, between 10 to 200 there will be a values. Okay, and it is moving because we have set it a new value. The moment new value comes, the height will be changed to that model. And also if you could see here, we are getting all the integers, so it has been converted into integers instead of double. Okay, I hope you are clear. So what we'll do next thing is we want to change a color of this. So we have a few things in the slider, like I can change the active color. Active color is nothing but the color that you are seeing right now. It's a like purple bluish violet color, right? We wanted it a white, so let's write a white. And I wanted an inactive color, that to be a little less white, like a 38 or something. This better. And we wanted to increase the bubble or the thumb of this, right? But that property is not been there. There's a thumb color, but there's a not thumb shape or something. So okay, if you can't able to change the property of it, what maybe you'll do, you'll think there's no such property and you might leave. But you have to understand one thing, that all these widgets are built one upon other. Like under each widget there's another widget. If I go and click or go through this file, how the slider is done, the whole source code, you can see each slide is made up under one of the other things. Each slide has some some gestures, sign, or some kind of a basic component, and that basic component is made up of other widgets. So it's like a Lego blocks. It's like building upon one another. So if you don't find any property here, you don't have to worry. You can either build your own slider, nor you can just take up the theme. What do you mean by theme? First I'll remove this and I'll tell you. See, I was telling you guys about the theme of light and dark, right? We can give any color to it. Let's say if I just go back to the main screen, I was telling I have given this colorful color as a like a little blue. Now if I just give a primary color or a primary text color, let's say if I want to change the text color completely, if I write a text theme, and if I write a text theme of body medium, where I want to make everything as a text style, then the color of them as red, and if I hit save, if there is a body color, I'll just restart it again. So if there's a body medium, anything under the body medium, these are the text with the body medium, this will be changed to the red accent. See, this is the one type of color variations or a theme you can maintain. Okay, or if you don't want to maintain this kind of thing, we can just remove this, and also we can do it for the single widgets. What do you mean by single widgets? For each widget there will be an theming things. For slider there's a theme. So what I can just do is I can wrap the whole widget with the slider theme. Okay, and this slider theme will have a set of property where it can be implemented. See, which want a data, and this data wants a slider theme. Okay, and this slider theme, what you are seeing, there's a plenty of things you have to mention it one by one. So before, what did we do in the theme? Also we just copied it and change whatever change we want to do. So we'll do the same thing. We'll just first reload it. So we'll just copy the every slide, every theme, but we'll just change the color that we wanted. So what the color I wanted, I want to first change first reload it again, because this theme is being changed. I've removed that. Okay, now it's looking fine. So let's I have just copied everything. I mean, the theme of everything will be copied, which means I am able to get all the properties of sliders. Okay, the first property I want is the active track color, which is white, and I want an inactive color, that is a white with a 34, 38. Okay, and we want to change a thumb color. This circle is called as thumb, which is nothing but a thumb color, where I can give a color of a red axis, replace with that color. So which is not the thumb color, let's see again which is the red color. So I'll come here, I'll make sure I'll copy from here, and I'll go back and paste it. So back here, if I paste it, yeah, we can see that red color, but I want to increase the size of it. So what I'll just do, I'll do thumb shape, and we wanted a shape of a rounded slider thumb shape, and which has a property called elevation, enable thumb radius, disable pressed elevation. We want to enable the thumb radius to be 15, which will be little larger, and when I see that there's a little circle, right, the white color circle you're seeing, the focus kind of, that is called as overlay. So I can even change the overlay color to be little shade of this, but I'll just reduce the opacity to 10. I'll just copy this and I'll write with opacity with 0.2, which will be the same color with the opacity. It's a shape, I want to do a color, yeah. So if I click, there's a little color of the same, the thumb color has been seen here. See, if you could see, there's a color. Then I'll change the shape of that overlay also. I can just write rounded overlay shape, which has a overlay radius. Let's keep it as 30, which is double of the normal. Now it looks fine. And if you want to make this the overall range of the slider little bigger, or if you want to give a little radius, I can just give a track height to it, like a 12 or a 8. I'll just fix with a 6 or something. So this is fine. So this is how it looks, and I feel like we have to increase this because this and this has been collapsing. So I'll just go here, instead of 17 I'll just make it as 18, which fine, looking good. So let's go back, let's see how can we make this. So I'll just collapse this also, and if I come to the card of this, where I want two text, one is saying as a height and a number to the height, and two buttons. So let's go back and see how it is. So you can see here there's a two text and a two buttons. So one thing you have to remember, I'll explain here. As I told, if you don't get an correct appropriate widget that you want to make for your app, it doesn't matter. You can make your own widgets. Okay, I can show that with the button thing. So let's go and make this widget. So here we are. So just remove this both icons. We wanted first text, that is called as weight, and I want the style to be like a label style. Now it's good, and since it's a column, make sure it is in the center, align to be in the center. Better copy the same text, place the another, which should be a number, and also I told whenever it is a number or a constant, place it here. I'll write a weight, initial weight to be like 25, okay, 50 kg. Okay, I'll just come here down, so I'll directly write here as a weight, which is an int. I'll convert that to the string, moment it's done. I want to make that as a number, which is looking good. So after this, I want a row which should have a buttons. Okay, I told you here I'll explain you how to create buttons. So first render how the normal button renders the normal button, that is we have an elevated button which has a two main properties. One is a child and a on press, which we all know. So let's create a child which want an icon. The icon should be the remove, that is a minus icon, and which also want on pressed. For now let's just keep it as a null. Okay, and we want a, if I save this, it's showing an error. Wait, we can see, okay, the ending is not given properly to the row maybe. So let's check where the error occurring. Not to this, but okay, let's collapse this and see how it's causing us the error. Okay, for the row there's no column. Okay, the thing is we have not separated the text and the row. Okay, fine. So we have this elevated button. You can see you can change this shape by having the property called there should be a property called style, where I can style the elevated button dot style from. So I want to make a shape of this better. So shape, how I want a circular border. I'll just write a circular border where you can see it here. So, and also what I'll do, I'll just give a color to this icon, like a white color where I can see, and also size to it like a 30. Now it is better. Okay, this is how elevated button looks. Okay, and what else I can give? We have properties of padding maybe. So if you want to give a padding, we have to enclose it with the container. So this is how you create a button. So let's create one more button, where here I'm not creating using elevated button. Let's say you want to create some kind of button which is not giving the feeling of elevated because of the default property. If I click on the file of elevated button, you can see all these are like defined. If you go to the somewhere below down, where you'll get to see which is the basic property or the widget that is used to create this, something called like a raw button, raw material button. So somewhere below here they're using a material button. So if you could see, each and every element is been extended from something, and also all this button are built with a property called a raw material button. So if I just use this floating action button, if I do the same thing, and I'll just replace everything like child, everything I'll just replace it with this instead of elevated button. I can show this better in the floating buttons. I'll just copy and paste it here. I'll make sure I remove this, where I'll get this floating buttons. So make sure it is ended. Okay, done. So just reformat it. Okay, we got this floating action button we got. Let's change the background color also. First, now change the shape, let it be circular. Okay, so if I go inside this floating button, you can see something called material, raw material. See, raw material, you'll get it here, raw material button. So every widget that is constructed using this widget. If I go inside again, raw material, which is again built here with something. If I just scroll it down a little bit, I'll see using a gesture detector or impel it has been made. So each of the widgets are made up of something. So instead of me using a floating action button, I can directly use a raw material draw material button where I have to define few things like child, and same thing, whatever you did you have to do it here, but you'll get extra uh, features for you to make it more realistic. So this is the one way of doing, and the second way is just use I mean already existed one and make it better by changing the few variants. Like I have to just have to change the color, make it too little uh, inactive. Straight the color, background color, and the color to be this, and instead of remove I'll add, and I want to make this row to be main axis with a space around, which will sit properly like this. Okay, the next thing is uh, very important. You might face the problem of this when you keep two floating buttons or two buttons next to each other, and when you try to navigate within the screens of next screens, you might face an error called you are using a same kind of widget trees. You might heard of this. So the error could be something like there are a multiple arrows that share a same tag. So this could be an error. So whenever you get an error, try to search in a Stack Overflow, which is very good resources. You'll get a lot of solution for it. So I'll show this exactly where you'll face the error. For now, let it be like this. So back in code. So let's do the same thing for the other card. So what I'll just go here, copy this. But if you could observe here, the both floating action button and floating action button, we're using the same thing, but we are just changing the color. So we don't have to use the same, I mean, don't have to waste the time doing the same button, right? I can just make this as a refactor this as a Flutter widget, as a rounded button. I wanted a rounded button. So here is the rounded button. So the one difference between these two is I'll just go back here. Instead of using a floating action button, I'll just use a rounded button. So I might reduce a few lines of code instead of repeating myself. But both is, I mean, it's showing the same icons, which I don't want. So I'll just create a new variable that is called as icon final icon, which is a data of icon data. If you don't know how to find a data type, you can just hover on the things of icon, which will be telling what it wants. Okay, if you could see here, it is saying it wants an icon data of the icon. So from there you can just say what you want. So let's create a constructor. Whenever you call this class, which is telling it wants an icon property, which will be placed here in the icon. Okay, so if I come back here, it's throwing error because it wants an icon that is, for first one will be the icon, and it's a name parameter. Make sure you name it, then you write the data. Same here, icons. Instead of remove, we want add. If you reload it, it should work. If there is an error, which means that we have not ended something, okay, we have not ended the semicolon, so we got proper thing. So let's do the same thing for the second one. So I'll just copy the overall column, I'll paste it down here, which will work fine. Instead of height, I want the age. So let's create one more variable for height, age, sorry. Let it be like a 25, and let's replace it the age here. Okay, fine, done. it's cool, and we already know like what is happening, and we already made few changes, and we know how to make this customize components and all. So we are left out with one more component called a little button, and also the few functionality like if I click on the button, they should be changed. So before doing that, let's add a little button down there. In the next videos after doing this, we'll see about how can we refactor this, because it's very important to maintain the code modular. And the fourth element that we wanted is a little button. Let's create a container. So I can make my own button if I don't want to use a elevated button or any float. I don't want to use any icon button. I'll just write a container which takes up a width of infinite, double infinite, which is like extended. Okay, I'll just give a color, and that color is a slider color. So what I'll do, instead of me copying the same CTA color multiple times, I'll search for the slider first. So I got here the thumb color. What we want is this, so I'll just take this off, and I'll come to the constants. I'll just create one more variable called CTA color, and I'll just replace it. So back in the code, I'll just, and very important, make sure whenever you write the constant, it should be started with the keyword K, and when it comes back here, I'll write CTA color, and I want to repeat that same thing in the container. I'll just write CTA color, which will be there. So just reload it. So right now you can't able to see any buttons or any color or any text here, because so containers need to be need to have some kind of child to take to take a width. Okay, so if there is no child, it will be shown nothing. If there is no width also, it takes up the whole thing. Okay, the child property, we wanted a text is stating that calculate BMI, calculate your BMI. Okay, if now you can see, right, now it is taking the child's size of the child. The style of the text, I just wanted to be normal, like how I'll just write a text style. I'll just give a font size like a 24, font size, not font weight, 24, and make sure the letter spacing is 0, and also give a little font weight like a 500. And to make this to be aligned, to be center, we have a one more property for text, that is a text align, which is nothing but to be placed in the center. Okay, and also there's a little so much gap in, there's no breathing space between, right? I can just give a padding since it's a container. Edge insights dot all, let's give like a 20. So it's looking good, but I want a little gap on the upward, that is like a margin. So I can just write a margin with edge insights dot a margin dot all, not all, we just want only, and to be top I want 30. Okay, it's looking better, and I want a little fine, let it be. Now it's looking okay kind of thing. Or I can just reduce this text by going here and making it as like 75. Okay, cool. So we did this button thing. So next thing we have to do is navigation to the next screen, and also adding little functionality to this. So in the next video we'll try to do that.